welcome and thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode of the Research Spotlight. This is the show where we get to interact with researchers across the globe. My name is Tisha, and today's conversation is with Alesia Ofori Dedaa. I hope I got the name right. Dedaa, right?
Dedaa.
Dedaa. Great. Thank you. So Alesia is a PhD student at the University of Leeds, UK, and her research interest is broadly in the politics of natural resource management, specifically agroforestry, conservation and water governance in Sub-Saharan Africa. Her PhD research takes a political ecology lens to explore the complex politics embedded in the water mining nexus in Ghana. Thank you so much for joining me here, Alesia.
Thank you, Tisha, for having me.
Yeah, I hope you are doing well.
I am.
Great.
On a Saturday evening, it's good.
And the weather is great in the UK, right?
It's all right. It's then here. We had a bit of sunshine this week, so that was beautiful. But the temperatures are plummeting, so hopefully we'll get more sunshine in September before we dig into winter.
Okay, great. So we know that you're a PhD student about to finish, right?
Hopefully.
Soon to be doctor. Yeah, but can you take us back memory lane, like to share a little bit about yourself, how growing up was like for you?
So I'm 100% Ghanaian. I love to say that, first of all. I'm 100% Ghanaian. I grew up in the eastern region most of my time. And growing up, there are quite a number of things that I thought I was going to be. I think when I was in grade 1 or 2, I said I was going to be a lawyer. And then getting close to high school, I said I was going to be a doctor. And then I said I was going to be a nurse. The usual, the big career. And then when I finished high school, somebody suggested that there is a program at KNUST called Natural Resource Management, which is quite good. And I did a bit of, then Google was now becoming a thing. And I just did a bit of Google search and I realized, it has something to do with tourism. And I love traveling. So I was like, oh yes, this is what I need if I want to travel and visit like conservation parks and go on safari rides and stuff like that. I thought that was what my life was going to be about. So I just went straight into that program. And so I did that. And I specialized in wildlife because, of course, I want to go on safaris and things. And so after that, I got the opportunity to do a program in sustainable forest management, a master's actually. And I did that because sustainability was becoming a thing. It was the global discourse. It was the most popular thing. Even still, we've got the sustainable development goals. So I wanted to do a program in forest management around sustainable forest management. And after that, I felt like there was something missing in that whole education train. I felt there was, we do manage our natural resources. We try to bring in the needs of people, but I felt we didn't understand the societies in which the resources were located and the kind of the everyday realities and the politics that takes place there. So I think for me, I felt that was the reason why some of the conservation measures were not having the effect that we think they should have. And so I wanted to find out how to deal with that. So throughout my education, natural resource, I was always interested in the social sciences, so the human aspect of it. So that was what took me to my PhD, because I met my supervisor and she understood where I was coming from. She was like, and then I think this field of politics and political ecology and social sciences is where you can find those answers to understanding why conservation or natural resource management projects fail. So that's my journey so far. Now that's what I'm researching on.
Wow. Wow, that's interesting. So can you share a little bit more of your work with us?
So just to take back in 2017, yeah, when I don't know if you remember when the lynching of is it General Mahama happened in Ghana.
Yeah.
I remember waking up one morning and that was the only thing in the news, and people were sending me images of that and the videos. I was wondering, why are you sending me this horrific? It was so hurtful. But for me, it wasn't just about the lynching. It was everything that was connected to it. It was Galamsey, it was the mining, it was the political discourse, it was what governments say they will do and what they don't do, and then the military on the ground. It was a whole lot of things that came rushing to me. And so I felt like, yeah, I could sympathize with the situation or I could do something about it. And I felt it's also linked back to the question I said earlier on about understanding people and societies and how they relate to managing natural resources. And in this case, managing mineral resources and water resources, because water is central to the whole discourse around Galamsey. We are pushing Galamsey in Ghana because we think they are polluting our water bodies.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was central to that whole discussion. And it took me to try to understand the connection between mining and water and understanding the politics around it. And so that's what excavates and unpack the whole politics embedded in Galamsey specifically, and also broadly around mining and how it connects to water. So that's what my research is about.
Wow. This is really huge because right now most of us Ghanaians, we have been worried for some time now because of this Galamsey issue. We think our water bodies are being polluted and we are so afraid. We don't even know how huge this whole thing is. I mean, I learned that they burnt excavators and
yes.
Yeah,
there's a whole thing happening, and for me that's what's interesting, because when we discuss it, like if I'm not a researcher and we're not thinking in the space of whatever theories or concepts we use to understand this, and I just meet you as a Ghanaian to Ghanaian, we worry about it and we think, yes, it's good they're destroying the excavators, it's good they're destroying their water pumps, because if you cause loss to them, financial loss to them, they won't go back. And so it makes sense on the surface. But then we should remember that it's not the first time this is happening. Past governments have done it, right? Like, it's not the first time we've heard about this. It's not the first time there have been a military raiding a mining sites to shoot miners or to drive miners away from the land. So the question is why?
Why
does it keep repeating itself? And for me, that's what I'm interested in, answering that question. Why is this so? To just sort of give much more explanation beyond, oh, miners are greedy, or oh, MPP, NDC want to, they want to please miners, or they want to please Ghanaians. I think there is more to that, and that's what I'm interested in.
Okay. Wow. So far, what has been some of the challenges that you have faced trying to find solution to this big problem?
Well, where do I start? Well, I think regardless of what research I would have taken, there's going to be challenges anyway. If you're doing a research, life is full of challenges. But for me, it has been transitioning from to use a very scholastic term, what would be the right word? A very positivist approach. So initially, when the way I looked at research and natural resources is you've got your variables, you measure your variables and you get the output, or you have your research questions, you go out there, you interview people, and what they say you compare to whatever, and you come to a conclusion. It's very simplistic, it's straightforward. When I moved into the social sciences, I've had huge respect for social sciences, to be honest. I mean, in school, we used to think they had it the easiest. Like, oh, if you do the sciences, you are the brilliant students, and the social sciences are those who relax. but I've had huge respect for the social sciences because of the way they approach problems. It's very scientific and very robust. And for me, the challenge has been adjusting to that new field, trying to understand some of the concepts and how it's applied, and relearning everything. And I think it's a quality that every researcher needs, to be able to unlearn and relearn continuously, I think, for the rest of your life. So for me, that's been one of the major things. And also, research in politics is not as straightforward as you would have wished. I mean, if I was researching, I don't know, water pollution as it is, I would have gone to a river body, take samples, come to the lab, measure whatever elements is in there, and just say, oh, there's mercury in it, and that's it, right? Like, I could say miners are polluting water bodies with mercury. But then if you want to go beyond that, and the moment people hear you talk about politics, everybody's like, oh, MPP, NDC. And then people don't want to talk to you because they're like, are you going to criticize them, or you're from the opposition party?
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I think that's been one of the things, just trying to have an open and honest conversation with people about politics and making it a comfortable discussion, saying, yeah, we can talk about politics, because if we don't, how can we then approach the problem?
Wow. So you have moved from natural science to social science, right?
I'm actually interdisciplinary, so I combine the two.
The two. Wow. So it must be I can imagine how challenging this could be, because I am also from physics background, and when sometimes I have to just switch a little to do other things, I see how challenging it becomes. So I can imagine. So how is a typical day like for you? I mean, trying to sometimes think as a natural scientist and then a social scientist. Yeah, how is it usually like for you?
It's been interesting, honestly, because it has also meant that I'm able to engage in quite a number of discussions. I can jump on certain new projects, for instance, like I can have conversation with people and I understand where they're coming from. I can still have conversation with my friends who are still in the natural sciences, and I understand them. And at the same time, I feel like I have been accepted into the School of Social Sciences, and so I can have that discussion. And so everyday life for me, it's very enlightening. Just discovering the various ways in which we can approach problems, the interdisciplinary ways and mixed approaches and all of that. But to just say, how does a day look like in the life of an interdisciplinary researcher? It's every day is not the same, unless when you're working on the same project, of course. But for me, I've had the opportunity, based on that background of being open-minded, to have people say, oh, do you want to jump on this paper with me? Or do you want to bring your insights into this for me? And what I offer then is a very critical lens to it. I'm going to critique it and say, well, previously I would have said, yes, this is a good thing. Less overpopulation is the problem why we are having degradation. But now I'm going to say, no, let's ask these questions to see if it's really the problem here. So it's very exciting. And one of the things I enjoy the most is having discussion with people and trying to pat my shoulders for being the person who brings an interdisciplinary lens and that critical approach to it. So I feel like it's been great, even though I talked about the challenges, but I think it's a very interesting space to be.
Well, it's good to know that you feel fulfilled with what you are doing, because that's very, very important.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So we know that as a researcher, one of the ways some of us who are not doing what you are doing can get to know what you are doing is by writing articles and publishing. So can you tell us a bit about that also? What goes on into that? How you have to the work that really goes on into writing and publishing a research paper?
It's different for every paper you're writing. So so there are different ways of putting your work out there. And let me just start from that point. So you can put your work out through by attending conferences, right? By attending stakeholder meetings. Article publication is also one of the avenues to get your work known. And you can use like blog posts as well, trying to communicate your research into very comprehensible ways so that people who are not in your field, people who are not necessarily scholars, can understand what the problem is, right? So there are various means of doing that. I think for me, being in academia, one of the challenges I've seen broadly about the field is that sometimes we just tend to speak to ourselves. We love speaking to ourselves. So unless we write papers and articles and we just read it among ourselves and we quote each other and we're like, oh yeah, we're doing such a great job. But for me, the real change here is being able to interact with the policymakers, being able to interact with the people who we go out there to interview, being able to see the impact of our work. Because when you think about the huge amount of research that is pumped out every single day, every single time, because you have to publish or you perish, and then some of the problems still maintain, like there's no change. So then what's the question? What are we not doing right? So for me, it's about identifying the various ways to get the research output out there for people to understand, have a change of mind, understand policy from a different dimension, change policies. So that's very crucial to me as well. But just going back to your question about publication, I haven't published a lot. I'm not like an accomplished somebody who's published like that much. But the few that I have done has been, each paper has been different. The approach has been different. But what I will say is that to publish is to be able to be very clear and succinct with the kind of message you want to put out there. So that's one of the things I had to learn the hard way. Because like, oh, I've got so many ideas and I just want to put on paper and just tell people, oh, there is this and there is that. But I have to learn, okay, what's that one message that if anybody picks your paper, you want them to take home, and just being able to streamline to that message has been one thing that I'm still learning, and also having to know what audience you're targeting. As I said earlier, we tend to always think about our fellow researchers and who is going to cite who. So should I publish it in this journal so I can have people who are in my field cite me? But for me, the way I'm starting to think about my work is how can I write in a way that teacher who is in physics can pick it up and understand, oh, so this is the problem. Right? There's some articles like that, you just pick it up, it's not in your field, but you just get it. You just get the message right away. And then there's those that like, okay, I have to be a philosopher to get it. So for me, that's been the way I looked at article publication, but also research output in general.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great. Now we know you are doing something very, very huge, and I'm sure that after this interview, when people watch, there are so many younger people who are going to be interested in what you are doing. Because for me, I didn't know someone was doing something related to galamsey.
Well, there's quite a number of us, really, quite a number of people.
Yeah, so I like what you are doing, and I'm sure several others will also will be interested in what you are doing. So what will you tell a younger person who would want to go in this direction, who would want to do something like what you are doing, or who would want to be a researcher just like you? Yeah.
I would say, first of all, you have to know what kind of global challenge that you want to tackle. Knowing that, first of all, it's the beginning. So I think that's the measure. That's the criteria you measure yourself in future and say, okay, this is where I've gotten to. So knowing why you're getting there, what you want to solve, and what change you want to see at the end of the day. Also, secondly, trying to imagine where you want to see yourself in 5 years. It's very difficult to know. We don't end up where we always dream we want to get to, but it helps maps out a way to say that I'll be moving from A to B and C. If B doesn't work, I've got D here. So it's just being honest with yourself and knowing why you want to go into academia, into research, whatever field it is, and try to map out or find somebody who's been there or doing it and talking to the person and getting ideas from quite a number of places to map out your own unique path for your career.
Wow, thank you for this. And you've shared with us your journey and all that, and I can see that you made some major steps, like moving from natural science to social sciences. It's a big step that you took. But do you have a mentor, or did you have someone that you keep going to talk about the things you want to do, or someone guiding you?
I do have an incredible woman in my life. I should just begin by saying that I had people along the way who nurtured me along. So, for instance, I remember there was a teacher who actually steered me towards natural resources, because initially I wanted to go into medicine, as I told you. So I actually had a program, the opportunity to do that, and somebody was like, okay, go into this direction. I wouldn't know where I would have been if I had taken that alternative step, but I mean, somebody showed me the way. But the one person I do have now, my greatest mentor, is my supervisor. She's incredible. She's sort of like understood the path that I am on, and she knows the story and where I want to get to. And so I can always go back and cry and say, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, okay, sit down, let's talk about this. So yeah, it's an incredible. I think we underestimate the importance of having a mentor or a friend or a coach in our lives, and the huge difference that they make. But at the same time, before you get that person, you should know where you want to get to, because then you don't want somebody to be doing all the homework for you. You want to have that platform so that they can build upon it, or they can guide you.
Yeah. Great. I was going to ask you if you are also mentoring others, but but before you even answer that, we have sorry, we have a comment here. Hammond says, he said he's your mentee, and then he's learning from you from afar.
Oh, Hammond, bless you. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'm so humbled to hear this on a live program. Thank you very much, Hammond. I'll try and be a good mentor.
Yeah.
So back to your question about if I do have somebody. Yes, I do. Hammond is one. I do have a number of incredible people who've approached me and say, not just to say I want to mentor you, but I feel like indirectly those people look up to me. You could feel that, this is not just about your journey or what you want to achieve in life. It's also about opening the gates for others, because I've had the opportunity where people have literally opened the gates and hold it for me to walk through. And so I feel that responsibility to be able to do the same for others, for my colleagues, for people that I meet. Not necessarily categorize them as mentees, but like for anybody that I meet. But specifically, I do have a number of people that I literally like speak to them occasionally, and we talk about, okay, where you get into. And I do learn quite a lot from them. And it's amazing how much you learn from teaching others. Yeah, so that's also been a very important part of my career growth, because I get to see things from a different perspective and also advise myself whilst I nurture others. So yeah, there is that also.
Wow, great. Thank you for what you do and keep doing that.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
So I want to ask you this question, which I find very interesting, because you are looking at the political aspect of natural resources.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I want to ask you about your opinion about the current state of research work in Ghana and what you think can be done to make it better.
It's an interesting question. I think the first thing that we have to ask ourselves is what's the state? Like generally, what is the state of research? I don't want to be very normative in my judgment or my whatever state I want to put research in our country in, because I've seen quite amazing work being done. I've seen some incredible papers being produced. And so it's just like everywhere. I mean, even in the most developed countries, you can find papers that you wonder, did somebody really do this? So it's hard to put it on the state. But I think when people ask that question, we imagine the collective, the way research funding is low, the way we have minimum resources. And of course, if you're doing any research and you are using minimum resources and that push is not there, that motivation is not there, of course you can try your best. That's what you can do. You can only try your best. I've done research with very minimum funding where I have to self-fund it myself, and that also means that I'm not going to stay in the field for a year to do ethnographic work if I don't have the money to do that. I'm going to make do with what I have. And so what can we do about it? We can only encourage the government to understand what research is and the role of research in the economic development, because governments understand money more than the social aspects. So just say that if we're doing research, it's going to increase our GDP, or we're going to have $100 million being brought to our economy and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's the number one thing. And to also encourage upcoming researchers to do very rigorous and original work, and also work that targets our contemporary problems and challenges in Africa and in Ghana. Because I found that, especially when we're doing a BSc, we sort of tend to reproduce work. You go to the library, you find a work, it's like, oh, I'm just going to replicate it. It's a good way of doing research, of course, but then the number one thing is trying to get towards doing original work, work that people recognize the originality of it and how rigorous we've done. So I think, yeah, just trying to encourage the government to invest more into our research facilities.
Great. And I was really glad when you mentioned that you want to write a paper that a physicist or the policymakers can take the paper, read, and understand exactly what you are doing. And I'm sure that's also a way to help encourage them invest in research work.
Yeah. I mean, I'm involved in knowledge exchange. Part of my work, not my research, but the stuff that I do is in knowledge exchange. And basically, how do we transfer our research output into policy work? And it's a very interesting field to get into. I think it's a whole lot of things go into just trying to get policymakers to understand your work and why it's important that they do change policies because of what you've produced. And so, yeah, for me, that's always been at the back of my mind, because then we can just talk to ourselves and say, oh, that person is a scholar of whatever field it is. But then, how do people feel the impact of your work?
Yeah. Great. I know that you work in Ghana, Zambia, Cameroon, and there's another country.
Tanzania.
Tanzania, yeah. But do you have plans of going back to Ghana to settle there permanently, or you would be working from afar?
That's an interesting question. Settle in Ghana. I think it depends, because how do I put it? It's been sometimes you can't definitely say that I want to go to Ghana or I want to stay here. For me, it's not a question of where do you want to stay, where do you want to grow your career. It's a matter of the way my career trajectory have gone. It's a matter of, okay, being like, I don't know, like a mountain fishing for the opportunities, and wherever the opportunities will go, just being willing to move there so far as you think you're going to have an impact. And so if it has to do with going to Ghana, if that's where the change or where your research is being accepted, then yeah, why not? Because that's where we come from. That's where we were nurtured. So it is an option, but I can't absolutely say that, oh yeah, right after my PhD, I'm packing my bags and moving to Ghana. Because I think an interesting thing one discussion that we've had with people, scholars in the diaspora, is whether if you decide right off the bat, I'm going home now, is the environment ready to receive you? Is the environment ready to support you? Is the environment ready to let you share whatever you've gained? Right? So that's like a very huge question to ask. And I know people also say that make sure you develop yourself outside, and then when you come, you are much appreciated. But I think, well, that development can happen back home. But I think the most important thing is that whatever you're doing, you will be accepted. So for instance, I do political ecology, so I'm very interdisciplinary. So if I move into a school in Ghana, are they ready to, for instance, create a course that I can have social science students and natural resource science and agriculture science students have a combined field where I can teach them, instead of saying, oh, your background was in natural resources, just stick to natural resources. So that environment, is it willing to, would they create that environment for you? For me, that's a very important question.
Great. And are there opportunities in your field that you would want to share with viewers? Open opportunities, position.
I can't think of any right off my head. But I guess if it has to do with scholarship, we have the general scholarships that cut across the entire Commonwealth countries. Everybody knows that. I think if still on the issue of scholarships, then you have to look at the schools, what school you want to go, what country you have to go, you want to attend the school, and then what program, because some programs are they have a home in certain countries than others, or in certain schools than others. So generally, I would say just do your research well and identify where you can go to.
Great. It's been a great evening listening to you and the great stuff you are doing. So what would be your final words to us?
Well, I think it's been a very, very reflective evening for me as well. It's been very reflective, just thinking about my journey, where I am. Sometimes you just tend to underestimate the experiences you've carried away and the things that you think people could benefit from. So first of all, thank you, Tisha, for this opportunity to share my research journey, and I hope that there are pieces of nuggets here and there for people to take from. And I would say, whatever path you are on, it can be research, non-research, activism, whatever it is, just be true to yourself and try to find a space where you think this is where I want to be. I think just being sure of that, say, I think I want to go into NGO work, for instance. This is what I think I'll find my happiness. You find peace in that, and you're able to run with it, instead of sometimes just saying, oh, a friend of mine is doing that, and so they have more money, so yeah, I think I should go into that direction. So yeah, my final words would be just find the space where you think you can thrive, you can survive, you can grow and flourish, and the environment can support you, and stick with that.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you so much. I have personally learned a lot from you today. I'm sure viewers have also learned. If you're a younger person watching, she started as a natural scientist, and then she hasn't even moved completely, but she's doing both now, social scientist and then natural scientist. No matter what, where you find yourself at the moment, we can still make some changes. You can move to another field, or you can combine the two. So just keep pushing and keep searching for whatever you are interested in, and definitely you will get there. Thank you so much for watching, and see you in our next episode. And thank you so much, Alicia, for making time to share your journey with us.
Thank you, Tisha. Thank you very much.
Okay, viewers, bye.
Bye.